Hey everybody, I'm Philip.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are Pajamas. And today we are going to watch the 2021 reboot, whatever, I don't know, we don't know, of Candyman. Last night I showed you the original Candyman. It was your first time watching it, my billionth time watching it. TLDW, you enjoyed it very much for all the reasons that I love it so much. And I am so old that I saw it in the theaters when it came out. That is not the case. That is not the case for this one. Because I'm still afraid of people. So I avoid them at all costs. Because people are horrible. You know it's not? Horror movies. So, are you ready to see what this is all about?
Yes.
All right. At least now you have something to compare it to when we are done. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Why is it backwards?
What is this wine? Walgreens? Rothschild?
We have a Moscato in the fridge.
Sweetie, you don't know the first thing about Chicago real estate.
Oh, he must like you because he is really showing his ass. Isn't he always?
Overpaid, Bree.
Affordable housing has had a particularly bad reputation.
You would never know.
Yeah, because they tore it down and gentrified the shit out of it.
Translation, white people built the ghetto and then erased it when they realized they built the ghetto. Ooh, no offense.
None taken.
You guys want to hear a scary story?
No.
Too bad. This is a story about a woman named Helen Lyle. She was a grad student, a white grad student, doing her thesis on the urban legends of Cabrini Green. And Anthony, get painting. My sister's not trying to support you the rest of her life. Put down those weights, pick up them brushes.
It's funny. A police car on either side of the block. Keeping us safe or keeping us in. You lived around here for a while?
Ask the white people around here about Girl X, Dontrell Davis. Blank stares. One white woman dies in the hood and the story lives on forever.
It's a good story, I guess.
Killed him right there on the spot. What shows up a couple weeks later? More razor blades and more candy. That's when we knew Sherman had been innocent. Harmless.
What did you think?
Summon him.
Hell no. No.
Work speaks for itself.
Oh, it speaks, all right. It speaks in didactic knee-jerk cliches about the ambient violence of the gentrification cycle.
Summon the Candyman.
Yeah, no. Black people don't need to be summoning shit.
Come on, that is nonsense.
This isn't the bayou. Chicago, that's white people shit.
Is all your work based on found material? I mean, where'd you even find those paintings? Thrift store in the desert?
I found them in the studio where I painted them.
Love will tear us apart.
Jesus, Jared, we get it. You like Joy Division.
I don't want you to die tonight. At least, not until we fuck. You know what? I changed my mind to it. Necrophilia's always been on my bucket list. So much for that.
Were discovered in front of a piece from rising star Anthony McCoy entitled Say My Name.
And say my name. Artists gentrify the hood. Who do you think makes the hood? The city cuts off a community and waits for it to die. Then they invite developers in and say, hey, you artists, you young people, you white, preferably, or only, please come to the hood, it's cheap. And if you stick it out for a couple of years, we'll bring you a Whole Foods.
Well, don't pick at it.
I've been so eager to meet you.
Don't you start already. I get first dibs. Clive literally had to die for Brianna to be free. Sorry. So Jameson's doing a show at
God.
the gallery in New York.
What is he?
Candyman ain't a he. Candyman's the whole damn hive.
There are others.
But the first one, it's the story Helen found. The story of Daniel Robitaille. They beat him, tortured him. They cut off his arm and jammed a meat hook in the stump.
He's real.
Bell is real. Samuel, Sherman. Candyman is how we deal with the fact that these things happen. That they're still happening.
I made a mistake.
What do you mean?
I brought him back.
Who? Candyman isn't real.
I saw him!
Candyman isn't real, Anthony!
Let that motherfucker try to come up in here. Fucking art ogre, fucking fee-fi-fo-fum. Grady will stomp on his ass. Basquiat ass, fucking no job, sunrise.
Troy, okay.
Dick on the planet good enough to offset a demonology hobby.
Okay, Troy, stop!
What? It's the truth. If Grady came up in here, you can stay as long as you want on the condition you don't try and summon Candyman.
Who would do that?
Candyman. Not today. Not today. 2 more times.
Nice. Ow.
I saw on your file you were born here.
I was born on the south side.
No, it says you were born here.
Something they used to call Candyman.
Don't say that. When you first got taken, I thought she was the one who did it. And we vowed to never say his name again.
Come out immediately where I can see you. Immediately.
Troy, stop.
Nice.
We need Candyman. Because this time, if we kill him, their fathers, their babies, their sisters. See, you can really make the story your own. Some of the specifics should be somewhat consistent. This is as good a place as any, Pat.
I think he's dead.
Get you to the hospital.
Put your hands up!
When he came at Jones, and Jones, obviously knowing what he'd done before, seeing his hook, knowing you were in danger, had no choice but to discharge his weapon.
Candyman. 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 Candyman.
Candyman?
The writing on the walls. I am the sweet smell of blood on the street. Hell. Everyone.
Those were some extremely powerful end credits.
Yes.
Wow.
I really enjoyed this one.
It was, yeah.
It was very powerful.
Yeah, it was. Like, I'm kind of like they really took the power, or no, they took the idea of the hate crime and just magnified it. Reference him during the movie and then showing him during the credits. Like one of the ones that just haunts me to this day is that little boy that was executed. And, you know, the shot of him in tears with, you know, in the electric chair just is like, how can you see that and like be okay with it and then look yourself in the mirror? Like, but the idea that they're all Candyman, like they're all they live on, they're immortal. And not because of good things, because of the crimes that were committed against them. They have this immortality to them. And to correlate that to the Candyman story, which is obviously a hate crime, where someone, you know, was again murdered for the color of their skin. And I think leaning into it, as I said, is just, I think personally it was a really good decision. Because as you said, it made the movie so powerful.
Yes.
And I am glad that we did watch the original yesterday. Because we weren't sure if this was a remake, a retelling, you know, what were they doing? It was
a continuation.
Exactly. It was a continuation. And
which is good because it didn't need a remake.
No. That final shot with Tony Todd, I had goosebumps. Just, tell everyone. In his, like, that sexy baritone voice of his. Yeah. I'm sorry, it is. He has a very awesome voice. Like, I probably had the biggest grin on my face. And I shouldn't have, because it was, you know, such a heavy topic, but just like the horror fan was like,
yes,
they brought it full circle. Such a good way to do the continuation. I'm ashamed that I did not put Anthony McCoy. I didn't put two and two together because her name was Anne Marie McCoy, and this is my baby Anthony. In the original, I'm like, and it was the same actress, Vanessa Williams, who was Anne Marie in the original. She was the mom. That's fucking cool. Let the team that made this, let them remake like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they do this, and this had fucking style.
Yes.
This had style. I like the idea of Candyman being the reflection, being, I mean, so it was so like everything. There was so much symbolism.
I especially liked the shadow puppet tot.
I've got in my notes. Yeah, the artwork, the art direction is fantastic. Fantastic. Like, holy shit. Whoever thought of that and whoever did it, kudos. Fantastic job. It was really cool, yeah.
It magnified much more than the original the subject of social justice.
Yes. I wrote in my notes, I wrote here, it's like there is zero romanticism in this one. Zero. In the original, Candyman was almost like I guess kind of like a Dracula, you know, that romantic, be my victim. And, you know, Candyman, original Candyman was very romantic. He was. Yes, he was a villain. Yes, he was like it was a slasher movie, but there was a romance about it. He was wooing Helen the entire time. That's what Dracula does. You know, Dracula was very romantic and he wooed his victims.
Hypnotizing them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I've always got. I didn't say it in the review. I wish I had, but and if that's controversial, I'm sorry. I think it's very cool that for the Black community, they have their own lore. How many? You know, like none. Like I think Candyman was the first, and to give, you know, like I think it's so cool. Like you have your own Dracula. We have it too. Obviously, everyone has it, but it's not representing us. You know, it's not representing us as, you know, the color of our skin, our background, our heritage, our upbringing, social struggles, all of it. This was like Candyman, and this one's like the ultimate SJW. Like, and it's fucking cool. I mean all of this in the highest praise possible. I know race is a very touchy, especially in America, it's a very touchy subject. Especially at the end when the cop shot. What's happened in the last few years here? How many people of color have died? It's not like it's a new thing. It's been going on for... It was just accepted until it wasn't, and now it's just accepted. I'm just saying there is a corruption in America that is allowed to fester. And even when it's caught on tape, these people are still not going to jail for murder, most of them. They still have people, apologists for them. And for some people out there, this might be too heavy-handed. I think it needed to be. because it was clearly like directing a very specific message.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, I think going the social commentary route did this movie a great service in telling the story and how powerful it was in the end. So
Yes, it made it much more impactful.
Mhm.
It was able to portray the message in a way that it could be understood by many people, even people who don't really have anything to fall back on as a reference
yeah,
on such a matter.
because at the heart of it, it's still a horror movie. It's just the catalyst for the horror now was less be my victim and more about the original victim, and then all the people that came to represent Candyman throughout history, since Daniel Robitaille was killed originally.
It also made it much more clear in this film that Candyman was actually real, instead
Yes.
of it being, is he there, or is it simply a manifestation of what's going on in the victim's mind?
Yeah, I wrote something to the extent of, I said, this one is more of a literal story of possession. Candyman is more literal in this one. I said there's less gray area, like there was in the original, like with Helen, is she crazy and all that stuff. This was more. Something's going on with Anthony. He's clearly being overtaken by something.
Yes.
Well, what's going on.
And it certainly took a long time for him to actually do anything about that sting.
Yeah.
I would have thought that when I saw what was happening to him, I was wondering, are you allergic to bee stings? Why haven't you gone to the hospital for that?
Yeah. Eventually he did. Then he finds out the truth of the matter. It was also cool to see that they saved some things for the end. Like, not only did they save Tony Todd, they didn't put him in the credits in the beginning. The score came back at the end during the credits, in a kind of a different way. Thought that was really cool.
I like that melody very much.
Yeah, it's very good. But yeah, I just wasn't sure where they were going to go with this. I'd heard positive things about it, but I'm always skeptical, especially with like retellings, remakes, whatever, because like I said, we weren't sure. I mean, I guess if one were going to nitpick, they could say it was a little convenient that Anthony was the one who was searching it out and got stung by the bee, and then got, Candyman got his victim back that he wanted, because that was supposed to help carry on the legacy.
I do like it though, because it then had the concept of destiny.
Yes, exactly. I think it's fine. But I say if there's anything anyone could, other than the message, which I think might make people uncomfortable or bother people, because some people are just like that, I think that could be singled out.
Yes. There's no way that she could hide the child from him forever. Eventually, he will come for him one way or another.
Yeah. Just a really good job, man.
I thought that it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. You want to go to the notes? Yes. All right.
Philip's notes.
So we open up on Cabrini Green. We're in the same stomping grounds in Chicago. Cabrini Green. It's 1977. A young Burke, we didn't know at the time, but a young Burke comes in contact with the Candyman, who was just an eccentric man who gave out candy. But he was framed, kind of, somebody gave out candy with razor blades, and they assumed it was him. And I like the callback of him hiding in that hole in the wall that looked like Candyman's mouth from like the first one when Helen walked through and you turn around and it's Candyman's, the painting. That was cool. But yeah, that's our first taste of, okay, someone else has been wrongfully accused of something and they were, beaten to death for it. So the Candyman legacy lives on through this wrongdoing. So it's like all the wrongdoings perpetrated carry on the myth of Candyman, which is so cool. Like, I think it's
a very interesting notion.
A good way to take the horribleness of the situations and give them power back.
All of this manifested, it gives the origin of Candyman, that it wasn't simply this one incident, it was this culminating darkness that then came to realize itself.
And it makes sense then, because Burke wants to resurrect the darkness, this force, and unleash it upon the new residents, because the neighborhood has been gentrified. He wants to make them suffer like everyone has suffered, not just living how they were and being their neighborhoods being choked until there was no life and then sold for cheap. Like they were saying, white people move in 2 years, we'll give you a Whole Foods. You know, just people that are just seen as disposable. So yeah, unleash the absolute worst curse you can. And I love at the end when, I wrote my notes, I'll say it now. I love at the end when she is summoning Candyman in the car, in the rearview mirror. It's not out of fear. It's out of revenge. Like, she is smiling when she says the name. I love that. I was like, that's a cool way to turn it from the scary boogeyman to this fucking like crusader for justice who will split you open if you're an asshole. Yay, Candyman.
That's one way of looking at it.
And as always, when it happens, we have to talk about it. There was inclusion.
Yes.
We had a gay couple.
Yes, that was cute.
Yeah, it was. I like that.
I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At first, I thought we were getting a new backstory with the gentleman in this late 70s. I thought, okay, I was like, oh, okay, this is like a new mythos for Candyman. Before we realized it was just like, you know, a little portion of the greater story being told.
Yes. A bee, and then there's the hive.
Exactly. Yeah.
With him only being one of many.
And original Candyman's the queen bee. Don't fuck with Tony Todd. And then we had the first kill in the art gallery. You know, I love the idea of it, just like the reflection. In real life, you couldn't see it. Well, like on our side of the mirror, you couldn't see it. But in the reflection, you could see Candyman.
Yes.
It was really cool. It was a good way to establish. Like in the beginning, when things were backwards, I was like, did something happen to did it flip? Like, but now we're like, oh, we're on the other side of the mirror. We're Candyman as the viewer in the beginning. Very neat.
Very unique concept. I really liked that.
Yeah. And it was cool to see Anthony being consumed by this lore. Like he was going crazy from the idea of Candyman and the painting and learning about it and all of it. And then we learn, you know, it wasn't happenstance. It was on purpose. Burke told him on purpose to give birth to a new Candyman. Because this Candyman is going to be born from, you know, the story of a man who went crazy and killed everyone. And then in the end, we have the sole survivor, his girlfriend. It's going to be like the story's going to be altered now. It's more, it's not just mindless killing, it's revenge. Like I said, he went from being like a slasher killer to like a vengeful like entity. And I like that. I do. I love when the camera's panning back. It shows all the apartments and that critic is being murdered in her apartment. And it shows all the other apartments. That was really cool. That was such a good shot. We got the line, ain't no dink on the planet good enough to offset a demonology hobby. It's one take. I'm not sure I would agree with that, but. And then when Anthony's talking to his mom, the mom says, you know, that night we took a pact, but someone broke the pact. And I was like,
yes.
Like maybe I was slow on this one, but I was like, oh, okay. Like I think
together.
Yeah. Like I think my only complaint would be that from the moment with the mom to the end went a little too fast. Like it was like mom, church, hook, cops, dead, Candyman, the end. I think maybe another 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes in there. I mean, it didn't need it, but I think maybe it could have been a little more full. But maybe not. Maybe.
Maybe it did seem like the ending of the mother scene was a bit abruptly ended.
Yeah. I think they could have explored that more,
yes.
Leading into the end. Even having the mother show up at the church or something.
Yes, it
and
did.
Confronting Burke, you know.
It did seem like she was very emotional, that there would have to have been more things said. Of, where are you going? Don't leave. Oh, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
It seemed like that.
I think you could have included Anne-Marie's character a little more. If I was going to like nitpick at all, it would have been that. But it told a story fine for what it did. I just thought maybe the third act was a little faster than, I mean, that's how usually slashers go. This wasn't a slasher, you know what I mean? Like we build up the story, we create the tension, and then it's the payoff to the end. So I think there was so much to work with here that they could have added a little bit more in there. In that third act. And then I wrote, this is a really interesting notion by Burke, making him the new Candyman so the cops will come and kill him making him immortal in the new story, the story of Anthony McCoy. He's a historical thing that's happening that is going to continue breathing life into the Candyman mythos. And that is all for my notes. Everything else we've talked about and everything else in my notes are from my patrons over on Patreon. Yeah, thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, man. This was really, really, really powerful, as you said. Really good, well told, well paced, I thought. Like I said, did get a little fast at the end there. But even then, the story it told was fine. I just think this is such a monumental achievement. And people might think I'm overselling it. I don't think I am. Like, we've never had a horror movie like this. Like, I thought Candyman itself, as I talked in the last review, was important on so many levels. And to do that again with the same lore, to make it not only important, but more important in the scope of modern day relevance, and use history to show that modern day doesn't just mean now, because there was a modern day relevance going back in history over and over and over. And just wow, fantastic writing and fantastic just inclusion of all these things and events and making it just so much deeper and richer than just, oh, Daniel Robitaille was murdered. Here's Candyman. Like the idea that Candyman is all of these people, that all these people have been Candyman. It's really cool. Really cool. So I think from a social and societal point of view, this is a really, not just powerful, but as I said, important.
Mm-hmm.
This carries a lot of weight to it. If I was a black kid that grew up a horror fan and I saw this movie, imagine that. Like, wow. It's not only cool that it's this social message, but that it was still a good movie. I've disagreed on things with people, but I thought, Wonder Woman was an important movie. I didn't think it was very good. Black Panther, a very important movie in so many ways. I didn't think the story was very good. I love Black Panther. I love T'Challa. I love the story of that, but I don't think they brought it to the screen. But I think everyone involved, worked their ass off and did a great job on presenting it. I think the material they had could have been better. This is equally as important. I would go so far as to say, what Black Panther did for, people of color in comic books and in Hollywood, this is doing for people, for people of color in horror movies in Hollywood. Now, Get Out did that too. Jordan Peele and Get Out just blew the doors off. Made Hollywood realize, oh, wow, there's a whole audience of people we can, it's money and it's, demographics and all that nonsense. It should have been done years ago, years and years and years and years and years ago. But I think this is equally as important. Just because not only did it have that message and it had that importance and weight to it, but it was good. Unlike the other movies that I mentioned, that I didn't think were very good. This had style, well framed, well shot, well told, a cool way to take the lore, and as we've talked about, and mold it from history to now, and things that are still applicable to this day, unfortunately. You could look at the news and wonder, who's the next Candyman going to be now? Which one of those poor souls?
I really liked it that instead of simply having Candyman simply be some sort of supernatural being, that he's much more than that, that he is a concept that manifested itself into this life form, this force.
Yes. While keeping the original lore of the original movie intact. Yes. Which was cool to do, like I said, to do that, to take it and then just make it its own entity. Literally, but figuratively as well. Is just really, it's fantastic. We still had Helen, we still had, everyone there, Bernadette and all of it. And it was less about the romantic side of things as we've talked about, but more about the sacrifice that Helen made. Because the original story that we were told, when it was first being told by the brother, when they were, when he was with his boyfriend and they were visiting, was that, Helen had come to offer the baby to Candyman, which we know wasn't how it happened. And then we hear it later, and it's the actual becoming her own version of Candyman, which, at least in that part of at least at the end of the movie, but they didn't need to. Like that was fine. That was fine to be boxed up in Candyman. 1992. It would have muddied the waters a little too much to have like, oh, Helen was a vengeful spirit too. She was, but it would have watered down the message they were trying to send, I think. So very cool that they could just come at it from a different perspective, but do it in a way that still felt fresh. It didn't feel corny. It didn't feel tropey, at least to me. This was legitimately trying to be its own thing. It wasn't like the Friday the 13th remake or Nightmare on Elm Street remake where it's like, are you really trying? Like, this was working its ass off to create its own identity in conjunction with, but also independent of the original at the same time. And it pulled it off. And it's really cool. It was really well done. I feel like I've rambled and rambled. Is there anything you want to say about?
There's one thing that I have been curious about, and it didn't seem to go into any explanation. Why does his name have to be said 5 times specifically?
Yeah.
Why not 4 or 6? It needs to be 5. And I was wondering what the significance of the number 5 would be to Candyman, that it needs to be 5.
Yeah. It's just like with Bloody Mary, he said it 3 times. It's just like, why 3 times? It's just an accepted number. Like, I think it was either in the original script or in the original story. It's been a long time. And I'm old. So it was supposed to be 13. But they changed it to 5. But at one point it was 13 times. It was changed to 5, which I think worked a lot better. Candyman, 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 Candyman. You're a false sleep before you summon Candyman.
I suppose, yes, that was a very good decision to narrow it down to 5.
Yeah, I think it's just 5 just because.
3 was already taken. Try another number.
Yeah. Anything else you, No? Okay. Well, hopefully we didn't upset anyone too much from our opinion and take of this movie. I mean,
I don't see how it would.
You've not been on YouTube enough then. Holy crap. But yeah, like so maybe we're reading too much into it. Maybe we're romanticizing it too much. I don't think we are. I think we're seeing it for exactly what it is, and it did its job so well in being what it is that it deserves to be celebrated as such, in my opinion. And I assume you share that opinion as well.
Yes, and well, it shows that if that is the case, then that shows that it's definitely odd that it allows for the viewer to have its own interpretation.
Oh yeah. That's going to wrap this one up. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.